Hi, everyone. So today we're gathered to have a consultation group, and this is going to be a solution-focused case consultation. And Alicia is going to be our case presenter. So for the first phase, we're going to go through the solution-focused questions. And I think we're going to have Libby start us out with number one.
Hi, Alicia. I'm so
Hey.
glad that you could be here today. I want to start off by asking you what are your best hopes for this consultation today?
My best hopes, I just want to shed a little light on the issues that I'm having and hopefully gain some perspective from my peers, and maybe it just feels good to share things because I haven't really shared it with too many people yet. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And how do you feel like gaining that perspective will be helpful for you?
I think once I gain the perspective, I'll just be able to like reflect and listen and think about how it applies to my situation. And I don't know, I'm just hopeful that it will be helpful. And that's what I'm going into this with.
Nice, nice. That's a good attitude to have.
Thanks.
Do you want me to go into number two? Are we good for that one?
So
Okay,
your question number two as well, so you can take us away.
okay. So what are your best hopes for your current situation?
Honestly, I just want to have better communication with my supervisor because I feel like it's kind of lacking right now. So that's kind of like my best hopes for the situation.
Great.
Any further follow-up, Libby?
No, I think I'm all set.
Okay, so if you're all set, we're going to move to Leah with number three.
So you had said that your kind of best hope for this is to have better communication with your supervisor. If if that were to happen, what would look different about the situation?
I think what would look different is that first of all, I'd be hearing from her more, and I would just feel like I'm more important to the agency and like the program that I'm working with, and I would just feel like I'm needed and that I'm actually like making a difference in that.
And do you think that that would affect how you interact with clients or whatever groups that you're specifically working with?
Like yes and no. I think it would probably help me in some aspects, but like I am still working with like a client and like parents, and I still interact with them pretty well. I think like I'm not really sure if my interaction with my supervisor, if that got better. I'm not sure if that would directly have a correlation, but I could see how that could happen. So yes and no.
Awesome. And would anybody else in the I am so sorry. That is my alarm to remind me that class is in 10 minutes. Would anyone else in the organization be able to tell the difference if that communication got better?
Um, I I don't really think so because there's no one else in the organization that I'm working with. So I think it would just be like I would be the one noticing it mostly.
Awesome. I am all set for question number three.
I just had a quick question, Alicia. Do you feel that you're making a difference or an impact right now at your placement?
Um, it's a good question. I on some days I really do, and I really feel that, and other days I'm just like I feel like a wasted space, like at the agency. I feel like my efforts are kind of wasted. But the other days that I do feel like I'm making somewhat of an impact or difference, or whatever.
Mhm. I wonder if you're like making more of an impact or a difference than you think you are, and you're probably doing a great job, and you just got to give yourself a little bit more credit.
Probably.
And I think Leah, we'll go to number four.
Awesome. So if we were to look at your communication level with your supervisor from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no communication at all and 10 being the best possible communication that you could have,
Mhm.
Where do you think you are now?
To be honest, it kind of depends on the day, but right now in this very moment, I'd say I'm at like a 5.
Okay. And what has you thinking you're at a 5 and not a 4 or a 6?
I'm at a 5 because I do hear from her for the most part. Like when I email her, I get a response. It's just like the quickness to which she responds to me can be anywhere from like a day to a week to 2 weeks. And it's really unpredictable. And yeah, so.
Okay. Um, and what would tell you that you've moved essentially a step higher on that scale? What kind of interactions would you see just like one step forward?
I think that to move one step forward, she would be the one reaching out to me for once.
Okay.
Do you have any further follow-up?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. And we'll move to Gabrielle for question 5.
Hi, Alicia. First, I want to just mention that I hear that you're very much kind of on an island in terms of this agency, and that must feel very like isolating, especially during the pandemic and remote learning. And so I commend you for speaking on this because it's not very easy to do right now. But to kind of shift to something where we're looking at what you feel like you're doing good, what do you feel like you're doing that's already on track?
I mean, there's a few things. Like I am working with a client right now, and I do feel like I am helping them. The work that I do, even though it's very minimal, I still feel like it is making somewhat of a difference. And also the work I do with my field educator, who is in much more close contact with me.
Do you feel like any of that embodies like a trauma-informed perspective?
Yes.
Would you do you have any examples maybe?
I sorry, I didn't really like think about this before, but I just think that with the client I'm working with, I'm very aware of his trauma. So I'm kind of like trying to use that perspective when I work with him. And I'm also having help from my field educator who always kind of makes sure that that's like the forefront of what we're doing is being trauma informed. So I guess like yes to answer that question.
So you're in communication with your field educator. Would you say that that's on track?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the one that's we have like weekly contact no matter what.
Oh, that sounds good. That's probably very helpful. And then Teresa, did you want?
Yeah, did we get to question 6?
Okay. And then what do you feel? It sounds like you have a client, maybe 2, or
Just one.
Just one? Okay. For your client, what are they doing that's on track or that you feel is on track?
Well, they're 5, so it's kind of hard to measure sometimes, but they are more since the beginning of time since I started working with them, they are more focused. They listen to me. We have built trust. I've taught them things that they didn't necessarily know before. So I do feel like I am helping them and they are on track. I mean, of course, there's always going to be a setback sometimes, but we've been having more progress than setbacks.
Oh, that's cool. And you saying that you guys have been forming trust, that lends me to the idea that you are being trauma informed by creating like safety. Is there anything else that the client or anyone in that client's like world that shows that things are on track?
Yeah, their mom, like I'm also in contact with their mom, obviously, because they're 5. So whenever I email her, she tells me that she's noticed progress in them and she thinks it's due to me, which I can't take full credit, obviously, but I have to like some of it, I have to like say that I helped a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you for speaking with me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think Gabrielle kind of mentioned this too, and I think I asked you before if you feel like you're making a difference, and in a way you do feel that you are, and it sounds like from what you're talking about, you are making a difference and you are making an impact maybe on this particular child, and their parent is seeing it as well. And I know you kind of struggled maybe with that trauma-informed care question, but you were talking about trust and establishing choice and stuff with this family, so you did kind of answer that in a way, so that's really great. Um, and I think we're going to our last question, which is Libby, for Libby.
Alicia, you seem very committed to finding a solution to this problem, and I really commend you for that, because acknowledging problems in field can be really difficult to reflect on that. So
For real.
great job.
Thanks.
And it sounds like there's a lot that you're doing already. That's great. And that other systems are doing, that's great. But I noticed that you said to get to a 6, it would be your supervisor reaching out to you for communication. What do you think is the next small step that could take you to that 6?
That's kind of a hard question. I just think that maybe if I was more, maybe even as like myself, if I would just emailed her more often than I do, then maybe she would feel more comfortable reaching out to me. So maybe I just need to like send her more things and offer more help to her instead of just like only email her when I like need something from her.
Okay. How do you feel like reaching out more often will be beneficial to the situation?
Because then she'll be more used to communicating with me because we really haven't had like a ton of communication given COVID. So I think it will be beneficial if she just hears from me more, sees my name more, like maybe she'll just be more comfortable in general because she doesn't really know me that well,
Mhm.
so maybe she'll just be more comfortable in talking to me if I just open up the communication a bit more.
Mhm. And I noticed that part of what you were saying as your problem was that you wanted to feel like needed. Do you feel like when you make this additional contact with your supervisor that you'll feel that?
I really hope so. Yeah, I really hope so.
I hope so too. I'm excited
Thanks.
to see how this works for you.
All right. Does anybody, so we're kind of done with that solution focused questions. Is there any like final thoughts that anybody has before we move on to the wonderment phase and we have Alicia turn off her camera? Okay, so we'll move into the next phase. And for this part, Alicia, you can just turn off your mic, turn off your camera, and we're just going to chat for a little bit. All right, you guys. So in this part, so we call it the wonderment phase. So we're going to use like statements like I wonder, and we're going to try to maybe stay away from saying I wonder if. I know it's hard to do. I want to do it all the time too. So does anybody want to start us off?
Yeah, so I'm wondering specifically how, aside from emailing her supervisor more, Alicia could get that communication going just a little bit further. Like, is there that possibility of simply saying, can we have a more open communication? I obviously am not in her placement, so I don't know the full extent of the interaction with the supervisor, but I'm just curious as to what else could possibly be done on her end to get the communication kicked off.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of the same thing. I wonder like what maybe the field educator, the field supervisor is looking for her to do maybe on her own. Yeah.
I wonder how her supervisor is viewing this situation, and if she feels that there's also a lack of communication, or how maybe she doesn't even think there is a lack of communication.
Mm-hmm. yeah, like her perception of it, like how is it
Mhm.
in her view, how is she viewing it?
I wonder how, I wonder how I want to say it. Okay, I think I got it. I saw Alicia light up when she was speaking about the client, and there was like a great deal of warmth and kind of enthusiasm. And I wonder how much Alicia noticed that difference and how feeling needed might come from the client end just as much as the agency end.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed that she kind of lit up when she was talking about that particular child or student that she was working with. Um, yeah. Does
Kind
any,
of tied into that. Oh, sorry, you can go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I was just gonna ask if anyone had anything else.
Just kind of tying into that, I'm also curious because we touched on the trauma-informed care with her client. I wonder if improved communication would potentially improve the trauma-informed care, because she said her supervisor could take anywhere from an hour to 2 weeks to respond, and sometimes you need a slightly speedy response to be still within that trauma-informed care, which obviously Alicia has no control over the response times, but I'm curious if it would make a change.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I have one more. I'm just wondering how comfortable Alicia would feel discussing this with her field educator, and if that could be like a like gateway or something for further education with the supervisor.
Yeah. I was wondering that too. Like I wonder where she's feeling like comfortable and in having this conversation, because it is kind of awkward to bring that up and just kind of ripping off the band-aid and maybe just having to do it. So I was thinking that too.
I wonder how many people are in this boat with her, because I have a guess that there's a lot of people this year who are in this boat and that she's very much not alone.
Definitely, yeah. I'm sure that there is a lot of students right now in the same boat. And I wonder if it's helpful for her to feel too, to have validation and like kind of normalizing that a lot of people are going through this right now and she's not the only one. Does anybody else have maybe anything else that they're wondering or anything else they want to add? Okay. So Alicia, if you're there, you can come back and we're going to move to the next phase. All right. So so in this next phase, we're gonna move to the complement phase, and I think that we're gonna and I can start first, but then after that, we'll just kind of go around and maybe say one thing that we feel that you're doing good, and just kind of giving you some words of encouragement. And it seems like Alicia that you want to make a difference and that you want to fulfill your role in this internship, and it sounds like you are. And I think that you're doing a really great job from just the little bit that you've been telling us. Does anybody else want to volunteer to go first to give a compliment?
I feel like you're doing a really good job with like acknowledging where you see shortcomings, and like we've kind of said a couple times, obviously you have no control over what your supervisor does outside of like talking to them, but I think that that's a skill that a lot of people need to work on throughout their life, is identifying where there are issues that could be kind of easily fixed. Like at the end of the day, communication is something that could be worked on a lot easier than like a really difficult client situation. So I think that you're doing a really good job with identifying, not that this is a like smaller issue, but issues that are more readily able to be fixed that could then affect the work down the line, you know?
You can go ahead, Gabrielle. I really commend your resilience for like struggling with a problem or with this type of problem because it can be really hard to feel like you aren't needed in a situation, but being vulnerable and like sharing that with us so that we can support you is just like a great first step. And I'm just really excited for you to move forward because I think you're gonna do great things.
I am impressed by your, I mean, I mentioned this already, by your enthusiasm about your client. And I see that you have a passion for children, which is wonderful. Not everyone has that.
Yeah. So I hope Alicia that you can kind of take some of that with you, and it helps you kind of get through the rest of this internship that you have coming up. And we're gonna move into the final phase here and just debrief. And I just kind of want to touch base with you, Alicia. How was this for you today? How did you feel that this group was?
This was like really good. I was really nervous for it. But I feel like what all you guys said was really helpful, and it like made me feel really good. So I'm happy with the way it went.
Good. Is there anything that maybe you felt that like you took out of today that when you go to your internship like this week or next week that you can kind of take with you or think about?
Yeah, basically what Gabrielle said. I mean, she's right. I do have a passion for kids. I think I'm just gonna channel my energy into this client and really just focus on making his experience better and just do the best I can with them. So
And what about for the group, if anyone just wants to go first? Like, how do you feel that this worked for you guys today, for you all today?
I felt like this went really well. I thought that you did a great job at like guiding us through like each step and explaining to us like what each step meant. So that was really helpful.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I felt like there was a flow and a
Mhm.
smoothness as we get the hang of things, and it made me more confident when it came time to like talk about my question, which I didn't really like prepare for. So it was kind of nice to like practice being off the cuff, in the moment.
Definitely.
No, I completely agree. I feel like, especially for the fact that this is still very early on in our process of getting used to asking these questions and presenting our different experiences, this is going really nicely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you all for saying that. I know this kind of can be, especially on this platform, it can be kind of uncomfortable. It can kind of be scary. I think that we're all doing the best that we can. And I'm glad that we were able to have this group today. Is there any like final thoughts before we wrap up?
Go team.
No? Yeah.
Go snowflakes.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna end the recording.